Hi, my name is Caitlin Blake,
And I'm Natalie Grote.
and we are on the topic today of which would be the better invading species. I am doing the Argentine ant or the Unipathema humile.
And I have the red imported fire ant, the Solympavis invicta.
So, for my ant, it is a native ant to the northern Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, and also southern Brazil. This species has inhabited at least 15 countries on 6 continents, mainly oceanic islands. They thrive mainly in the summer seasons and retreat in the winter. This mostly has to do with the moist soil and temperature, typically in many Mediterranean climate areas. They nest generally in shallow, loose leaf litter or beneath small stones due to their poor ability to dig deep into the grounds, although, even though, despite that, they still take up a good amount of space. They form what they call super colonies that are genetically related, which means that each neighboring nest mingle between each other without being attacked. As for producing and multiplying, the Argentine ants are unable to lay reproductive eggs, but they redirect females who can produce eggs into areas where they can reproduce, and the males provide the food for the larvae to grow. Colonies reproduce by going off into new units. As many as 10 workers and a single queen can create a colony. This species is ranked in the 100 top worst invaders. They target other quote unquote injured species in the ecosystem, uh, such as native plants that also depend on the native ants for seed distribution, as well as other species such as lizards that use the native ants as a food source. Um, for example, there's been a recent decline in California of coastal horned lizards because the Argentine ants displace the native ants to that area, which causes them to have no food source. They protect aphid colonies, which is a plant pest, from predators and parasitoids, which causes a big problem in agricultural areas. In return of their protection, the ants benefit by feeding off an excretion known as honeydew. When Argentine ants invade agricultural areas, the population of plant pests increase and does a good amount of damage to crops.
All right, and then on the reverse side of that, the red imported fire ant, also known as Rifa, is um, the ant that came from Brazil, like back in the early 1930s. It was imported from South America, on a ship, and it causes millions of dollars in damage annually. So you mostly find the red imported fire ants here in the southern states. And unfortunately, they are very capable of mass destruction. In houses, they seek the electromagnetic waves. Many of those are found in the kitchen, and they creep into outlets and wiring systems to deplete the resources, and they'll eat up all the wiring and just like cause shortages in your home, and short out your electric boxes and everything like that. So it makes them very undesirable. Another thing, whenever there are like really big ant colonies, the homes are rarely built under like high voltage power lines that are in that area, because the ants will like attract to the house and like completely invade it. They're very aggressive, and unfortunately, I have firsthand experience of how like aggressive they are and their ability to sting multiple times. Um, they also prey on really anything living. Like they thrive in really disturbed environments. Um, like if there's like a baby deer like outside laying in the grass, like it'll just like go and eat it until it's dead. It'll like sting it and kill it. And they also do the same with like bird nests and nesting turtles as well. These fire ants also destroy crops by eating all of the material out there in the fields. And they're really like a nuisance whenever it comes to backyard activities and, like golfing and resorts. Like you don't want to stay at a hotel where fire ants are. And so one really big thing about them is they're not in places where it doesn't matter that they are. They're not out really in the middle of a forest where no one is. They're in like really busy places that are like disturbed human environments. That's where they mainly like hang out, like in farms and like human settlements. Whenever you're clearing brush, that's where most of them are found, and they're very hard to eradicate. People spend over $6 billion annually trying to eradicate the red fire ants. And that's mainly because one single queen can cause like full-blown reinfiltration of an ant bed. And so, whenever these ant beds have just one queen, that they can each produce like 1,500 to 5,000 eggs a day. So most colonies have like 100,000 to 500,000 ants living in them. So if that one queen survives, then she has the ability to just reproduce all of her workers. So the attacks from the ants and like their ability to like ultimately destruct a house and like depend on where you build your house. I think that makes them a more invasive species. But if you have a rebuttal to that about or
I mean, as for crops that are very important to us, they seem to like to protect the insects that cause those issues, which causes more issues with the fact that the crops that we need end up dying because there's the predators who go after the scale insects end up living rather than them being a biological pest control, which causes damage to crops and less production.
All right, yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think that both of these are really big invasive species. I'm just gonna have to say that since like the red fire ant can attack more things and ruin more things, I think as a whole that they're probably the most invasive. But these are two pretty not cool species.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So, I mean, it seems that my species of ant, the Argentine ant, seems to be more close encountered with
like
plants rather than like disturbed areas where people, in parks and homes and, places that people regularly tend to be at rather than just in fields and other things that have to do with agriculture.
So, all right. Well,
good job.